If you have a pension and you're trying to decide when to take Social Security, stop. Because there's one thing you need to do first that can change the entire decision. In this video, we're gonna look at how pensions affect Social Security decisions, why generic advice often misses the mark, and the simple framework we use to help retirees make the decision with confidence. Most people look at having a pension as having extra income, but in reality, it's already solving a part of the retirement income problem. I like to look at your pension income as part of your income floor. So things like pension, Social Security, maybe annuity income, maybe rental real estate income, all put together create a floor of income that many retirees don't have, especially those that don't have pensions. And so now the way that you think about other things in your life, like Medicare, Medicare IRMA, Roth conversions, and the timing of Social Security all fit together differently than the person who doesn't have a pension. Step one is assess all of those income sources, the income floor that I talked about. Add that up. Don't forget to also check in on your pension. Does it have a cost of living adjustment? Then you need to take a look at your living expenses. And we like to go, today your bank, your credit card, they can produce really good data, but take a look at the last 12 months of living expenses. And how I recommend people do this, separate your mortgage, take your mortgage out because you know that your mortgage is going to get paid off. Maybe you don't have a mortgage, good for you, but if you do, exclude the mortgage and then focus on those core living expenses. Then add all the things in that you want to do when you're in retirement, when every day is like Saturday. And I don't know about you, but I know what I do on Saturday. I tend to spend more money. Maybe it's going out to lunch, maybe it's playing golf, maybe it's doing fun things, or maybe you like to travel. And so add those things into your core living expenses and then choose an inflation rate. Typically, we're recommending 3%. That seems to be about the long-term national average. It has been a little bit higher in recent years, but long-term 3% is a safe number. And then take those core living expenses, inflate it at 3% every year, and then look at your income floor and compare that to your living expenses. If your income floor meets or exceeds those core living expenses, great. If it doesn't, you got to figure out if you need to be taking money from your investments, how much do you need to take each year? In a perfect world, it would be 4% or less. That's the 4% rule. And that means that you can grow your money over time, take 4% out per year, stay ahead of inflation. I look at it like a puzzle. This is all just fitting pieces of the puzzle together. And depending on how large or small your pension is, that's one piece of the puzzle. The larger the floor that you have, that means that you can make very different decisions with your investment portfolio. Here's what I mean by that. A typical retiree needs to invest for growth, and their investment portfolio needs to last for 30 plus years. Well, if you have a pension, that's gonna have great impact on what you do with your investment portfolio and your asset allocation. Let me explain. If your pension is large enough, then you have some flexibility around your Social Security timing. You could consider taking Social Security much earlier, maybe it's at 62, and then investing the proceeds, just putting that to work and letting that grow over time. The other thing you want to check in on your pension is, what are your survivor benefit options? What I mean by that is, if you die and you're married, can your spouse receive a portion of that pension after you're gone? And typically on almost every pension I see that there is some sort of survivor benefit, and it looks something like this. You get the largest benefit while you're alive, and then your spouse gets 0. Or you take a little haircut and then your spouse gets something, maybe it's 25%, or you take a larger haircut and your spouse gets 50%. So if you give up a little bit while you're alive, your spouse will get something after your passing. And that's a really important thing to assess and an important decision to make, because that too could tie into your timing decision around Social Security. In other words, if you say, okay, I want to get the most amount of money from my pension while I'm alive, and then I'm gonna leave my spouse nothing when I'm gone, maybe in that situation, you want to consider delaying Social Security as long as you can to at least, I would look at that as have insurance for that surviving spouse after you're gone. So that's what I mean by the fact that you have a pension. You've got really different ways to think about Social Security. And don't fall in the trap of copying the generic advice, because people that don't have a pension have very different decisions that they have to make. Let me give you some examples. Let's talk about the impact on Medicare. So depending on how much income you have from pension and Social Security, there's a good chance that you're going to be paying a surcharge on your Medicare. It's called IRMA, Income Related Monthly Adjustment Amount. Essentially, it's an extra cost to your Medicare. And depending on your income thresholds, the cost of Medicare could be as much as $500 a month higher than the base premium. And that's just because you've got a lot of income coming in. So you have to be looking at this for years down the road so you have a good sense for how expensive is Medicare going to be. You might actually have some significant tax issues down the road. The more income you have coming from that pension and Social Security, and by the way, most likely up to 85% of your Social Security benefit is going to be included in your adjusted gross income. Taxes are going to be something that you have to think about and mitigate in your future. And then any money that you have inside of a 401k or traditional IRA, those are going to start throwing off required minimum distributions at age 73 or 75. So if you were born before 1960, your RMD beginning date is 73. If you're born 1960 or later, the RMD beginning date is 75. So here's how to think about this. You might really benefit from doing Roth conversions to lower the future tax bill. Then you might want to consider delaying Social Security, maybe as long as you can, all the way out till 70, so that you have less income coming in, allowing you to do more Roth conversions in those years. So I think the first place I would start is assessing how large is that monthly or annual pension amount going to be, and then taking a look at the tax code to determine where do you fall in. Are you in the 12, 22, 24, maybe 32% bracket, depending on that pension income? And then add in the Social Security income, knowing that 85% most likely is going to be taxable for you. And then think about, what about those required minimum distributions coming in the future? That's more taxable income hitting your tax return. Looking at it that way is going to help you to make the decision, okay, am I better off delaying Social Security all the way till 70, making room to do conversions in your 60s? Or after you look at this, at the end of the day, if you realize, boy, taxes are just going to be a problem no matter which way I slice it, I'm just going to take my Social Security really early and then put that to work and invest aggressively. So let's say that you're taking Social Security early and you're investing it aggressively. I would recommend opening up a taxable brokerage account. If you have a living trust, register it in the name of your trust. That's from an estate planning perspective, that's the cleanest way to do it. And I would invest in low-cost ETFs that are tax efficient, that spit off qualified dividends that are the most tax efficient dividends as well. And depending on your tax bracket, you can invest in muni bond funds or individual muni bonds. That's gonna also help keep the tax bill lower. And so you might find yourself in a situation where if your pension's large enough, Social Security is just icing on the cake and it's gravy. So for you, rather than delaying till 70 and giving up those 8 years of income, you could take that benefit early, put it to work, and invest as aggressively as you're comfortable with to try and grow that over time. The one thing to consider is your Social Security benefit cannot be passed to your children. But if you take it early and you invest it, that money can absolutely be passed to the next generation or whoever you want it to go to. It can also be used for your own enjoyment while you're alive. And the framework around 62 versus 70 in terms of timing on Social Security, typically you need to live until about the age of 80, somewhere between 79 and 81, for it to make sense to delay all the way out until 70. But if you're the fortunate person who has a pension that's large enough to cover almost all or all of your income needs, now you're in that very fortunate situation where you can take Social Security early, invest it aggressively, and now when you look at that break-even point, taking it early blows it out of the water compared to taking it late. What I find though, in nearly 20 years of doing this, is that most people take their Social Security benefit and they spend it. And hey, if that's what you want to do and your plan can sustain that and you can afford that, go for it. It's your money, you've worked really hard for it. But I'm just giving you some things to think about and some strategies to really help you put this decision together and make the best decision for you and your family. Because you have a pension, most likely you're going to be in a higher bracket than many Americans that don't have a pension. So I'm going to share with you some strategies and tactics to really lower that lifetime tax bill. Then the question is, which accounts should you pull from first? And again, it comes back to taxes. What I typically like to do is take from the taxable investments first. You either want to consider taking money out of that traditional IRA while you're in the 22 or the 24% bracket, because those brackets may not be around forever. Taking distributions out when you're in low to medium tax brackets could make a lot of sense when you look at a 30 or 40-year plan for yourself, okay? So that being said, the big decision about how to fund the rest of your living expenses after your income floor is thinking about, do I want to pull from my taxable account versus my traditional IRA versus my Roth IRA? I like your Roth to grow aggressively for the future. That can cover long-term care expenses. That could also be given to the next generation in a tax-free manner, which is fantastic. And the last thing I'll share with you on that decision is the one nice thing about the taxable account in terms of leaving it to the next generation is your kids and your beneficiaries will enjoy a step up in cost basis. So if there was a way to leave money in your taxable account to the kids, then they could essentially receive all of it tax-free. So the Roth is coming to them tax-free, the taxable account is coming to them tax-free. It's your traditional IRA that's gonna be really expensive for the kids because every dollar coming out is fully taxable. So I know I've given you a lot to think about, and I hope that you can see clearly that it's so important. These decisions result in people having hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars more at the end of life and paying hundreds of thousands of dollars less in taxes because they were smart with the details. You have a pension and you're thinking about Social Security, probably have some investments. These decisions cannot be made in a vacuum. You have to look at them through the lens of the big picture and not just right now, but for the next 30 to 40 years. People are living longer and longer these days, and it's imperative that you have a good plan in place, make the right decision, because once you make these decisions, there's oftentimes no going back. I hope this was helpful. If you need help or assistance with your planning, use the link below to schedule a call with someone on my team. We're happy to work with you. I'm Brad Lineberger, certified financial planner and founder of Seaside Wealth Management, helping you get peace around the issue of money. See you on the next one.